Ukraine remains firm on not engaging directly with Russia on peace talks, as President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Turkish counterpart Tayyip Erdogan in Istanbul on Friday. When Erdogan suggested a possible peace summit with Russia moderated by Turkey, Zelensky said it couldn't work.
Ми не бачимо, яким чином може запрошувати людей, які все блокують, руйнують і вбивають. Ми хочемо отримати результат – справедливий мир і саме справедливий для України. Тому спочатку цивілізовані країни світу розроблять детальний план і будуть мати результат, а вже потім будуть залучати представників Росії, саме тих, хто готовий до справедливого миру.
During the visit, the two presidents also signed several bilateral trade and military cooperation agreements. Zelensky also visited a Turkish shipyard where a warship is being built for the Ukrainian Navy.
The US Embassy in Moscow warned Americans in a security alert posted on its website late on the 7th of March of an imminent threat of attacks on large gatherings in the Russian capital in the next 2 days. Quote, the embassy is monitoring reports that extremists have imminent plans to target large gatherings in Moscow to include concerts, and US citizens should be advised to avoid large gatherings over the next 48 hours. Latvian and UK foreign ministries echoed the warning, with the UK embassy to Russia advising British nationals against all travel to Russia. The warning was issued several hours after Russia's Federal Security Service said it neutralized an Islamic State terrorist cell that had been preparing an attack on synagogues in Moscow. The US Embassy in Russia gave no further details about the nature of the threat, but said people should avoid concerts and crowds and be aware of their surroundings. It is unclear if the two statements by the US Embassy and by Russian FSB are linked.
A ship carrying desperately needed humanitarian aid is expected to set sail this weekend from Cyprus to Gaza. The Spanish vessel Open Arms is due to use a newly opened shipping route, but as there is no functioning port in Gaza and shallow waters, it is still unclear whether the ship will be able to dock. On Friday, the US revealed details about a highly anticipated floating pier to be constructed in Gaza to allow mass aid inflow. According to the Pentagon, the installation could take 2 months and a workforce of 1,000 US military troops. But the Pentagon has stressed no troops will be on the ground in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli activists from the far-right group Order 9 blocked the Nitzana border crossing all day on Friday, not letting any trucks through. They insist no aid must be sent to Gaza until all the hostages are released.
Portugal is gearing up for early elections on Sunday as political parties held their last rallies. The centre-left Socialist Party and centre-right Social Democratic Party have altered in power for decades and are expected to collect most of the 10.8 million potential votes this time too. Both are tainted by charges of graft and cronyism. The public sense of outrage could lend further momentum to a rightward drift in European politics, which in Portugal is represented by the Chega party. The election is taking place after socialist leader Antonio Costa resigned as Prime Minister amid last November's corruption investigation. So far, he hasn't been accused of any crime. High inflation, a housing crisis, challenged public services such as education and healthcare are some of the key issues affecting Portugal, which this year marks almost 50 years of democracy.
Former Honduran President Juan Hernandez has been convicted of conspiring with drug traffickers to enable tons of cocaine to make it unhindered into the US. Convicted on Friday in New York, the judge ruled that Hernandez, who was president of Honduras from 2014 to 2022, used his military and national police force to help drugs get into the US. The charges carry a mandatory minimum sentence of 40 years in prison. Hernandez is due to be sentenced in June. His defense will appeal the ruling.